At 2:47 this afternoon, Congressman Jim Jordan asked a single question during the House Judiciary Committee hearing. And what happened next has never occurred in any congressional testimony I have reviewed in 15 years of covering oversight hearings. Kash Patel, nominated for FBI director, froze. Not a pause to collect thoughts, not a strategic delay, a complete freeze. For 52 seconds, cameras recorded absolute silence while Patel stared at the documents in front of him. And in those 52 seconds, the entire timeline he had constructed over 3 hours of testimony collapsed. Subscribe to this channel immediately, because what I am about to walk you through is not a political gotcha moment or partisan theater. This is a nominee for the most powerful law enforcement position in the country, caught in a contradiction so fundamental that 52 seconds of dead air became the only response possible. This is the moment when preparation, coaching, and carefully crafted answers met a single question that exposed the gap between testimony and documented fact. Turn on notifications, set them to all, because the confirmation process that seemed likely to succeed 72 hours ago is now facing questions that cannot be answered with 52 seconds of silence. Here is what happened in that hearing room, because the timeline reveals exactly why Patel could not answer. At 10:03 a.m., the hearing began. Chairman Jordan gavelled in. Patel was sworn. Opening statements consumed 47 minutes. Democrats focused on independence and political interference concerns. Republicans emphasized law enforcement credentials and support for rank-and-file agents. Standard confirmation hearing procedure. At 11:34 a.m., questioning began. Each member received 5 minutes. The first hour covered standard topics: FBI priorities, counterterrorism strategy, cyber threats, China policy. Patel handled these smoothly, confident answers, no hesitation. He appeared well prepared and likely to be confirmed. At 1:47 p.m., the hearing resumed after lunch recess. Patel had now been answering questions for over 2 hours. He had established a clear narrative about his role in the previous administration's national security operations, specifically regarding a classified briefing he claimed took place on August 15th, 2023. He had referenced this briefing 4 separate times during testimony. Each time he stated he attended the briefing, received specific intelligence, and based subsequent recommendations on that intelligence. At 2:43 p.m., Congressman Jordan asked for recognition. The chairman recognized him for 5 minutes. Jordan is known for rapid-fire questioning, but he began slowly. He asked Patel to confirm the date of the briefing. Patel confirmed August 15th. Jordan asked who attended. Patel listed 5 officials. Jordan asked what intelligence was presented. Patel provided a general description consistent with his previous answers. At 2:47 p.m., Jordan asked the question. He had waited through 3 hours of testimony specifically for this moment. He had let Patel repeat the August 15th briefing claim 4 separate times, building a pattern on the record before introducing contradictory evidence. That is strategic prosecution technique. Let the witness commit, then present the documents. Quote, "Mr. Patel, you have testified 4 times today that you attended a classified briefing on August 15th, 2023 at 2:30 p.m. in the Eisenhower Executive Office building. The committee has obtained visitor logs, security camera footage, timestamps, and the briefing attendance sheet signed by all participants. According to those records, you were not present at that briefing. In fact, phone records show you were in Miami that entire day. Can you explain the discrepancy?" The room went silent. Patel looked down at his notes. Cameras captured everything. The clock on the wall behind him showed 2:47 p.m. and continued ticking. At 2:47:15, Patel's eyes moved left to right across the page, scanning for something that was not there. At 2:47:28, he reached for his water glass but did not lift it. At 2:47:41, a Republican staffer 2 rows behind him pulled out his phone, presumably texting leadership. At 2:47:54, Patel exhaled audibly, picked up by the microphone. Patel did not speak. He did not look up. His hands, which had been animated during previous answers, went still. Committee members on both sides stopped shuffling papers. Staff members behind Patel leaned forward. The silence was absolute and growing more damaging with each second. At 2:48 p.m., 52 seconds after Jordan finished the question, Patel spoke. His response, "Congressman, I may have conflated 2 separate briefings. I will need to review my records and provide a corrected timeline to the committee." Hit that like button right now if you understand what just happened. A nominee for FBI director testified 4 times under oath about attending a specific briefing, provided details about that briefing, and when confronted with documentary evidence proving he was not there, took 52 seconds to respond with a statement that he may have been confused. The algorithm decides what breaks through. You decide whether this analysis reaches people who need to see it. Here is why those 52 seconds matter. This is not about a minor scheduling error or misremembering a date. Patel built a significant portion of his qualifications argument on actions he claimed to have taken based on intelligence he received at that briefing. He stated he recommended policy changes because of what he learned there. He told senators during private meetings that his presence at that briefing demonstrated his access to the highest levels of classified information. And documentary evidence now shows he was 200 miles away when the briefing occurred. At 2:49 p.m., Jordan asked a follow-up, quote, "Mr. Patel, this was not one reference. You mentioned this briefing 4 times today. You described the intelligence presented. You named attendees. You explained decisions you made afterward. How do you conflate something that detailed?" Patel responded, "I stand by my previous statement. I need to review records." At 2:52 p.m., Ranking Member Democrat Gerald Nadler asked for recognition. The chairman granted it. Nadler stated, "Mr. Chairman, if the nominee has provided false testimony regarding his presence at a classified briefing, this committee needs to investigate before proceeding with this nomination. I move to postpone the vote pending a review of all testimony against documentary evidence." At 3:15 p.m., the committee went into recess. Patel left the hearing room surrounded by advisors. Cameras captured him speaking rapidly on his phone in the hallway. Sources present reported he was on the phone for 11 consecutive minutes, gesturing with his free hand, while legal team members stood in a tight circle around him, blocking press photographers. At 3:26 p.m., he entered a secure office 2 floors below the hearing room. At 3:34 p.m., according to congressional staff who observed the hallway, 3 additional lawyers arrived carrying document boxes. Whatever was happening in that room, it required more legal firepower than Patel had brought to the hearing. At 3:41 p.m., Senate Majority Leader's office received a call from White House counsel requesting a delay in any committee action until clarifying documents could be submitted. That request was denied. At 3:47 p.m., the White House issued a statement. "Kash Patel is a dedicated public servant with an exemplary record. Any discrepancies in testimony will be clarified. We have full confidence in his integrity and qualifications." The statement was boilerplate damage control, but the 32-minute gap between recess and statement suggested internal debate about whether to defend, deflect, or distance. Drop a comment right now. Tell me if a nominee can survive testifying 4 times about attending a briefing he did not attend. I am reading every response because this question will determine whether the confirmation proceeds or collapses. Here are the 6 indicators we are watching over the next 72 hours. These will tell us whether this nomination survives or fails. Indicator 1, does Patel provide documentary evidence explaining the contradiction? If he produces records showing he attended a similar briefing on a different date and genuinely confused the two, it mitigates damage. If he cannot, it suggests the testimony was fabricated. Indicator 2, do Republican committee members continue supporting the nomination? If GOP senators express concern about false testimony, confirmation becomes mathematically impossible. If they dismiss it as a minor error, he survives. Indicator 3, does the FBI Agents Association take a position? If current and former agents state publicly that false testimony disqualifies a nominee for director, it creates pressure even Republicans cannot ignore. Indicator 4, do additional contradictions emerge? If investigators review all testimony and find other unsupported claims, the pattern becomes disqualifying. If this is the only discrepancy, it remains survivable. Indicator 5, does Patel withdraw? If he concludes the nomination is no longer viable and removes himself from consideration, the White House avoids a committee vote that could fail or a floor vote that exposes Republican divisions. Indicator 6, does the White House double down or pivot? If the administration continues pushing the nomination aggressively, it signals confidence they have the votes. If they slow walk the process, it suggests they are assessing damage. Here are the 3 scenarios for how this resolves. Scenario 1, Patel provides clarification that satisfies Republicans. He submits a detailed memorandum explaining that he attended a briefing on August 18th, not August 15th, and confused the dates when testifying. He produces attendance records for the August 18th briefing. Republican committee members accept the explanation. Democrats call it inadequate, but lack votes to block. Patel is confirmed 51-49 along party lines. This is the survival scenario where Republicans decide false testimony about a date is not disqualifying. Scenario 2, contradictions multiply and nomination stalls. Investigators find 3 additional instances where Patel's testimony conflicts with documentary evidence. Republican senators quietly tell the White House they cannot support a nominee with a pattern of false statements. The White House does not formally withdraw the nomination, but stops pushing for a vote. Patel remains in limbo for months, then withdraws, citing family reasons. This is the slow collapse scenario where political pressure builds until the nomination becomes untenable. Scenario 3. Committee votes to reject. Democrats united in opposition, plus 3 Republican defections, create a majority against confirmation. The nomination is rejected in committee and never reaches the Senate floor. This is historic. FBI director nominees are almost never rejected. If it happens, it establishes that false testimony, even on seemingly minor details, is disqualifying. This is the precedent-setting failure scenario. Subscribe right now. Like this video. Comment with your prediction. Which scenario happens? I am tracking all 3, and as events unfold over the next week, you will see the analysis here immediately. Let me show you why this matters beyond one nomination. The FBI director serves a 10-year term specifically designed to outlast any single presidential administration. The position requires credibility with agents, with Congress, with the intelligence community, and with the public. False testimony during confirmation, even about a single briefing, undermines that credibility before the nominee takes office. In 2017, Christopher Wray was confirmed as FBI director with bipartisan support despite political tensions because his testimony was factually accurate and consistent. In 2013, James Comey was confirmed 93-1 because senators trusted his integrity. In 2001, Robert Mueller was confirmed unanimously because his record was unimpeachable. Every modern FBI director has faced intense scrutiny, but none has been caught in documented false testimony during the confirmation process. What I know for certain right now, at 2:47 p.m., Jim Jordan asked one question. For 52 seconds, Kash Patel did not answer. When he finally spoke, he acknowledged the discrepancy, but did not explain it. Documentary evidence proves he was not at the briefing he described 4 times under oath. The White House is standing by the nomination. Republican committee members have not yet taken a public position on whether false testimony is disqualifying. The next 72 hours will reveal whether standards for FBI director confirmation include factual accuracy under oath or whether political alignment overrides contradictions between testimony and evidence. The hearing resumes tomorrow at 10 a.m. Patel is expected to provide clarification. Investigators are reviewing all testimony, and senators are deciding whether 52 seconds of silence followed by "I may have conflated briefings" is an acceptable answer when the position at stake is leadership of federal law enforcement. Stay with this channel. Turn on notifications when Patel submits his clarification, when the committee votes, when we learn whether this nomination proceeds or fails. You will see the analysis here immediately. This is not over. This is a confirmation process where 52 seconds of silence may determine whether the Senate imposes consequences for false testimony or whether credibility is optional if you have the votes.